So a lot of times what happens here is that in Khan Academy, they'll give you an exercise and they'll call it 1, and then they'll give you the same exercise again, they'll call it 2. And guess what that means? That means 2 is going to be harder than 1, and that's the way it should be, really. And they do a great job at Khan Academy, so I love that they do this work for us to have these exercises ready. So in this case, it's not going to be so easy as just being able to use our postulates to determine if 2 triangles are congruent. We can look here and see that we have a shape, and we're going to have to use some logic here. So, you know, clearly it's a quadrilateral and then there's a diagonal in it. So we could be, and we're talking about triangles, so we see the 2 different triangles that are here, right? Triangle CAB and triangle BDC. Those are the 2 different triangles that are formed. So you'd say, well, can I prove that these 2 triangles are congruent? Well, we only have 2 pieces of information on this side. And, oh, actually, you know what? This is going to be a little easier than I thought. We have 2 pieces of information on this side and 2 pieces of information on this side. And their side matches side, the other side matches the other side. Then we have the diagonal. Well, what do we know about the diagonal? It matches itself. So that means we have side, 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 side. So actually, these 2 triangles we know are congruent. And so that means, you know, the corresponding parts are gonna be congruent. Now, don't fall for that trap to think that X corresponds to C. As you can see, this longest side, the diagonal, is opposite what isn't quite a 90-degree angle, but we could kind of pretend just for a minute to help me think this through. Think of it kind of like it is a hypotenuse, okay? That's the longest side, so it matches with the longest side, you know, of triangle BDC. This is the next longest side, 5.2. Okay, 5.2 is going to be the next longest side, so it matches with DB. So angle 30 is at the end of that longest side, you know, away from this, you know, close to a right angle here. So it's at the longest side. So we go close to right angle here and go to the farthest end of the longest side. 30 matches this angle. These two angles correspond. But X doesn't correspond to 30. X is at the end of the short side. So X is going to be the end here. So whatever the measure this is, that's what X is going to be. Well, how are we going to figure that out? Well, we take 180 and we subtract, because we know there's 180 degrees inside the triangle, and we subtract what's here. So 180 minus 30, that gives us 150. And then we take away 92, and that would be what, 58. I hope I did my math right on that. 58. I'm just doing that in my head, and that is correct. So that's how you do these problems. For a moment, I just give you a little insight, but I didn't recognize the diagonal and think side, side, side. I said, well, we're going to have to use something else. I realized this was a parallelogram because the opposite sides are congruent, right? So I said, we got a parallelogram. So what do I know? I know that this angle over here, X, and this angle over here are alternate interiors of parallel lines. So that's the way I was going to do it that way. But that just has nothing to do with triangles, and it was kind of funny to me. Well, all right, we'll take a look at one more problem real quick just to see. Here we have, again, two legs of this triangle, 4, 5, and 4, 2, that match, and the third leg is a shared leg, right? The third side is a shared side. So now we need to know which sides correspond. Well, the 4, 5 runs over here. So the 28 corresponds to here, right? So X is the missing X is the measure of the missing angle over here. So, well, how much do these angles? These measure 150. 122 and 28 is 150. We know that there's 180 total in here, so 180 minus 150, that's 30. So this has to be a 30-degree angle, and this corresponds. So that has to be 30. And that is how those are done.